States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the next item on the agenda is public forum for non-agenda items only. And if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. I'll call on you and come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Mr. Aldrin.
Madam Chairman, my name is John Algren, 50 Smith Garrison Road, Newmarket, New Hampshire. I appear here tonight briefly on behalf of the Newmarket Community Development Corporation to report on where we stand with regard to the Smutty Nose project and its interest in coming into the town of Newmarket. The NCDC is still very enthusiastic about having Smutty Nose come to Newmarket. We have had some changes in the manner in which we are talking with Peter Eggleston, the owner of Smutty Nose. He's indicated to us recently in a letter that instead of being the developer of the entire mill buildings along the waterfront, he thinks it's more appropriate that the entire mill complex, both the mills along the river and the mills along Main Street, as well as potentially the land across the street where the parking areas are, that be developed in one overall development. He thinks himself trying to both be as owner of a mill, of a microbrew, both be that business and the developer is too much and inappropriate for him, and not. He also thinks that the selecting one set of mill buildings leaves too many uncertainties for him to cope with in trying to fulfill both of those roles. He's indicated to us that he would like us to find a developer. He has a developer in mind. He would like to be a tenant and deal with that developer and come into town. We understand that he's spoken to the local business community to express his enthusiasm and desire to move forward in that arrangement, and we, the NCDC directors, are hopeful that we can come to an arrangement with a developer that would include Smutty Nose.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Mary Jawiski, 52 Maple Crest Street. And I'm here because Jen Jarvis made a phone call to Deb Groschmal this afternoon to talk about the group that's meeting at Deb's house this evening to assist in the relocation, both either permanent or temporary, for some of the victims of Hurricane Katrina. So, Newmarket Operation Fresh Start is beginning this evening. We are looking for help from community members and organizations here in town to see what we can do to help some of the victims. As you may know, there were 500 guests who were supposed to arrive at Pease on Friday. It looks like that has been delayed at the present time, but at a meeting today in Concord, there's still a need for volunteers, and they would still like us to go ahead and continue to plan and prepare for these people. So if you are interested in lending a hand or providing some guidance, assistance, Deb Groschmal will be chairing that committee, and you can reach us at email freshstart03857@aol.com.
03857@aol.com. Good.
That's all I have.
Thank
And I'm
you
going to
very
go off to the
much.
meeting. Thanks.
Yeah. Excuse me, ma'am.
This ma'am?
Yeah.
Sawitsky, was it?
She
Very
needs your last spelling of your last name.
Terwiske, Terwiske. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Come on up.
My name is Peg Goddard. I live at 220 Cushing Road. On the heels of that announcement, my comments are, I think, particularly pertinent. I moved to New Hampshire, to Newmarket, about 6 years ago, and I fell in love with the town because I looked at it and I thought that someone cares. I now care about my community. I am now seeing that there are yellow boxes, Planet Aid clothing deposit boxes installed in our town. I noticed them first a year ago, and they are still here. Right now, presently, it's behind the the station and the video store. Planet Aid is an organization which and I'm not a computer person, but I went home because I felt something about it. Went to the computer, which I would like you all to do, and find that it is an absolute scam organization. And I do not want my townspeople, my neighbors, I don't want anyone being scammed by any organization.
What did you find out?
I have handouts here for you all,
Okay, but
which
could you give us a brief?
well, I can. In 2000, it's an organization that is started, I believe it was in Sweden or Denmark. The founder of it is now presently in prison. Britain, France, Sweden, and Holland have banned it from their countries. They say they make donations to charity. In 2000, Planet Aid raised $3.6 million, mostly through these clothing deposit boxes. However, there are a number of other satellite organizations which are affiliated with it. 6% of that money went to charity. The box is overflowing right now. A little bit more on it is that Tvind is another part of that, and Humam, not Hamas, no, Hamam, is estimated to be worth $350 million, but it's in big legal trouble. I would like to not have those boxes in my town. I did go to the police. And they say that maybe it is not an illegal thing, but he's calling the Attorney General, which I intend to also do. But if something can be done to remove it, so that particularly in light of now people's hearts going out to the needy people in the southern part of our country.
Have you contacted the owner of the building?
I have.
Okay, good.
I have. And the owner I talked with today,
Okay.
and he's startled by it, and I think we all should be startled by it and do something about it. So shall I leave these all
Yes,
here
that'd be
for
wonderful.
anyone?
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Counselor Glennon and then Counselor Morrison.
Al, thanks, Pat. Do they need a permit or permission to put those boxes there?
They don't need a permit, but basically, we allowed them to put one at the landfill because previously we had, the Good Samaritan or something of
Salvation
that
Army or
nature.
something.
Or Salvation Army had boxes.
Do you use a sound system?
Salvation Army had boxes, and basically, they ran into a problem of having a lot of garbage included, and they had to pull out. It was just too much for them to handle. Then this group came in, and we still had people that were putting things out, and we didn't see any problem with them setting up. So we have allowed one at the transfer station, in fact.
So based on what we know right now, can we ask them just,
Oh, if they're on our property, we can certainly have them removed.
okay. Thank you.
Could there be a town recommendation that they not be put into Newmarket?
I
I think you should probably read the literature, maybe we can discuss it
Yeah.
at the next workshop session.
We'll talk about it at the next workshop. Give us an opportunity to look this over and look it up on the internet ourselves. Thank you, though, for bringing it to our attention. Brian, you had a question?
That was my question,
Okay.
more or less.
I pushed my button. Just a second
Brian
ago.
Hart.
If you would like, ma'am, you can put a petition warrant article forward to the 2006 town meeting, and it's non-binding, but it could ask the town not to allow them on town property. The council does not have to follow it, but if the public voted for it, I imagine we would.
Did we do it without it?
We don't need the permission to do it, yeah.
Is there anybody else for public comment? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Next item on the agenda, public comment section, not public hearing. Town council to consider acceptance of minutes August 3rd, 2005 business meeting. Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Motion, Counselor Hart. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second, Counselor Jarvis. Is there any correction? I'll go first. On page 7, town council to consider old business, the very last item, Counselor Jarvis asked if the town council could discuss the water ban soon. It seems like it's kind of dropped, but I thought there was, didn't we talk about it?
That was the last meeting we talked about.
That was the last. So I did ask this.
Yeah.
That's what I said. And then we did discuss it at the next.
It just
meeting.
yeah, okay, it just seems like there should be a reply. That's all.
Asked if the council could, oh, I see what you mean.
So, and maybe you could just put in there that it was discussed at the next meeting. Yeah. And that's all I had. Anybody else? Seeing no more? Administrator Dixon, can you call the roll, please?
Counselor Hart.
Aye.
Counselor Morrison.
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Glennon.
Aye.
Counselor Jarvis.
Aye.
Counselor Jerry Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Caparelli.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next is the August 17th meeting minutes. I had two, on page 2, after the first paragraph, it says public hearing closes 7:35. Then there was a motion to delay final vote until after the council accepts a plan for the field. I think that it says motion C, and then the rest Counselor Hart is underneath. That should just be moved up. And on page... I lost it.
How'd you catch that? I just got it.
Counselor Hart, I'll find it while you're...
Counselor Morrison just pointed out something on page 3. I made the motion and I seconded it, too. So.
Oh, yeah.
Which just goes to show how hard he works.
It was probably you that seconded it,
Could've
the
been.
two Bryans. I
The
think.
two Brents. We
was
shouldn't
it?
sit next to each other.
So that second should be Morrison.
What was that on the? Anyway, and then on page 7, there's in the grant writer position, first line, Jim Hilton, there's a 0
Oh, yeah.
before explained. That's just a typo. And on page 9, number 17, about update on aquifer delineation, the figure in the third line is $5,200, and that seems low. So I thought it was more than that.
Yeah, I think it was closer to 15,000.
Yeah, 15,000.
We should, can you check that out?
Yeah,
Okay.
Oh, is it?
15,500. I didn't think it was that low. And the only other thing is, I just wanted to say that, let's see, what is it? That Erica has been taking very good notes, and I just want to say thank you.
Here, here.
Hey, great, yeah.
Counselor Jarvis?
I think Brian got them all, except for on page 3. I have a note that the motion on item number 4, motion to continue to a vote to the September 7th, 2005 business meeting, and to make sure the plan is on the agenda prior to the vote. That's not on our agenda tonight, so I just wanted to make sure that that's what we said, and it just didn't get on the agenda tonight.
well, we aren't ready for it. There's going to be discussion on that
Yeah.
on the 7th, the workshop, so that's why we
Okay.
didn't.
So- to the
Okay,
workshop.
I just wanted to make sure that we had it right on there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'll make a motion to adopt them as
Thank
amended.
you. Second?
I'll second it.
Counselor Hart, motions. Counselor Jarvis, seconds. Counselor Dixon, can you call the roll, please? I mean, Administrator Dixon.
Counselor Hart.
Aye.
Counselor Morrison,
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel,
Aye.
Counselor Glennon,
Abstain, I was out.
Counselor Jarvis,
Aye.
Counselor Jerry Hamel,
Aye.
Counselor Caprioli.
Aye.
Motion carried, one abstention.
Next item on the agenda is an update on school facilities, and Mr. Hawkins is out of town at this moment, so our superintendent, Kathy Murphy, is going to give us an update.
Thank you tonight for the opportunity to speak with you. As you know, Chris is out of town and asked me to fill in for him. I know those are big shoes to fill, but, and he's been terrific at keeping you informed. And we appreciate the opportunity to do that. It's great having Lori Ann at our meetings and exchanging information. So I think that's very important, and I think it's been useful to both our boards. So. Anyway, before I talk a little bit about the school facilities, I thought I'd share with you just a little information about our school opening. I mean, it's always a neat time of the year in terms of schools, and this year we opened, we had an excellent opening. The transportation system worked very well. No problems with getting kids to and from. We had a few people with tears, but they weren't the children. I want you to know that. I'm sure some moms were tearful as they let go their little ones, but it was a great opening. And this year in Newmarket, we welcomed 1,151 children to our school system this year. That is, again, an increase, a small increase, but about 15 students are new to our district. And that is spread over preschool through K, so obviously we were able to handle that increase. This year we're looking forward to several new initiatives in our schools. We have a new math program starting in our elementary school that we initiated in the fall, grades K through 3. We will continue with that implementation next year with grades 4 and the following year grade 5, and our staff and students are very excited about the new math program. We also have a new assessment tool that we've unveiled this year. It's a computerized assessment tool. Our youngsters will be taking a math and reading test on the computer. It's a company called Northwest Educational Assessments. It's a nationally normed test. Hundreds of thousands of youngsters across the country take this test. So it's some data, some additional data that we can use to assess how our children do every year. So they'll be taking that test in the fall and in the spring so that we'll be able to watch their growth over the course of the year. It will also give our teachers an opportunity, if they see some problematic areas in terms of the student learning, they'll be able to immediately focus on that issue and be able to make the adjustments and modifications that a youngster might need in those subject areas. So we're quite excited. The beauty of this program is that we get the results of the student testing in 24 hours. So it's going to be a great tool for us in terms of assessment. At the high school, they're very energized up there. They have unveiled a new system. It's called Positive Behavioral System, where kids are, there's very focused rules around what is the expectation in terms of the climate, but it's built around positive responses to good behavior and good deeds by our students. And for the first 2 weeks, we've gotten really great feedback from the students, so we're quite pleased with that. And probably one of the things we're very proud of is that last year our attendance in our schools was 96%. We far exceed the state average in student attendance, and from my perspective as the superintendent, that tells me that our students like to be at school. You know, that's the first step in learning. You have to have them there in those seats. And so to have 96% of our students in their seats every day for 181 days, which is our calendar in Newmarket, we're quite proud of that achievement, and I'm really proud of the youngsters and the families that make sure that kids get to school every day. This year, we have a number of goals that we've set for ourselves. We have high expectations, but we are working very hard to improve the literacy skills in reading and writing this year across all grade levels, from preschool right up through our 12th grade. We're focused on technology integration. Obviously, that's a very important tool for us to use in terms of learning. And we always and will continue to find opportunities to link with the community. which is a good segue into the school facilities piece that I wanted to share with you tonight. It has been extremely powerful. Many of you have participated in our forums, and I think that last Tuesday night was an excellent indication of the commitment that the community has to examining the need for a facility and what that facility might look like. Last Tuesday night, we had in excess of 110 people at our kickoff for our task forces. We were quite pleased at that turnout, and to date, we have approximately 22 task forces all working on different aspects of our school. They're working on issues around technology, transportation, the infrastructure, interior, exterior design, special education accommodations, community access. I could go on. And they're meeting all over town in buildings that are available, the library. I understand they've met downtown, and they've met at the high school. There was a meeting here tonight up on the 3rd floor, the Finance Committee. These groups have taken their work very seriously. The expectation is that these task forces will complete their work by November 1st. And so they have a mission. They have goals to accomplish, and then they will take a report. They will meet, they will come up with their findings, and they will report back to the facility committee, who will then in turn review those recommendations and forward them to an architect engineer. To date, we don't have an architect engineer because the board went out, developed an RFP for those services. We anticipate that will be awarded at Thursday night's school board meeting. We received a number of responses to our proposals. The facility committee reviewed them, and will be making recommendations to our school board on Thursday night for services, architectural engineering services, as well as environmental engineering services. So once that information is all gathered, reported, that will be passed on to the engineer, who will be able to use that information in terms of developing a schematic, if you will, of what the building might look like, and begin to nail down some costs. I know that we've heard all kinds of numbers bandied about in the community about what the extent and cost of this building, but we do not have that tied up at all. We're still determining how large that building should be, what grade levels that building should house. And when those things are determined, then we will be better able to present a number to the community. The board's going to take all that information, and then they will determine the warrant for March. Obviously, the goal is to have something in front of the community by March, but that's not carved in stone. That's a decision that our school board will make. I know that it's a goal for the facilities committee, but again, that's their warrant. That's their warrant that they present to the community, and they will make that decision probably in January. We continue to, probably the question that's asked the most is, we're planning this building. Looks like we have a building in the sky, but no place to put it. And we continue to discuss and meet with various landowners in the community to find a suitable location for our building. Just want to make sure I covered everything. Just a couple of places that the community and you as council members can find further information, and you know that the Facilities Committee has a site, WINS, W-I-N-S, that you can access and get information about the work of the facilities. There's also on the Newmarket School District site, there's links to that, as well as information regarding facilities meetings that we hold lately several times a month. So. Any questions, anything I might be able to answer?
Councilor Barner?
Kathleen, thank you for that report. It is helpful. When you present, or when the school board presents to the town for the warrant article in March, will it just be one concept, such as one school, this is what we think it should be, or will there be alternatives such as, and again, I'm keeping in mind the tax rate. I'm hearing anywhere from $3 to $6 per thousand on the tax rate. And again, that's probably hearsay more so because we don't really know what the cost is going to be as of yet. But and the reason why I asked that question is because will there be an opportunity, or will you have a plan, I guess, somewhere in place that says if the taxpayers come back and say that cost is prohibited, we just can't afford it, we need a new sewer treatment plant, we need a water treatment plant, we need all of this, we're concerned about the tax rate. One of the ideas that has been tossed around, and you probably heard it too, is I guess the understanding is you may want to take the 5th grade and put them into that new facility. One thought that came in just general conversation was to take the 5th grade and the junior high and put them into the current high school, gut that right out, because you've already got the framework, you've got the building, you've got the walls, you've got everything there, gut that out, and put them in there and move some of that student population from the elementary over there, and then you could sort of downsize the size of the new building, but yet keep in mind the expansion possibilities, put all those facility needs in place, similar to what we did with the DPW for the fire department, put those things in place. Will that be any thought process that the public can, have a choice or have something as an alternative?
Well, we've spent the last 15 months examining exactly what you just described, and that, in fact, was one of the choices that was on the table in terms of the facility committee examining that issue. Unfortunately, that description that you just gave relative to the current facility becoming a 5 through 8 and developing a new high school costs more than what would be on the table. Again, it's somewhat speculative because we don't know what the size is, but we did do that. We ran a hypothesis, if you will, of having that school look like a middle school, 5 through 8, and building a high school to house 300-400 of our high school students. And the cost was more than if we built a new facility.
Where would the cost be? In the redesign, or?
In the redesign, in the gutting it, in the codes that are currently in place now for building structures for schools are just, we currently have issues around code in both of our buildings. They have been grandfathered in because the buildings were built prior to those codes. But if we do any kind of work that changes that building, for instance, if we decide to add 4 rooms to the elementary school, that's been talked about for those 5th grades because the portables are deplorable. We have to put in a sprinkler system. The building does not have a sprinkler system currently in the elementary school because prior to that being a part of the building code, that building was built, so we've been able to grandfather that. However, the moment that we change and do any work in that building, we must put in a sprinkler system, and it's a substantial amount of money. So when we went and did all of that work on the present site at the junior senior high school, the costs based on numbers for 2008, so we had some numbers built in. We weren't looking at today's numbers. We were anticipating what it might cost in 2008 was more expensive to do that than to build one building. So the committee, just to answer your question, Dana, the committee has been looking at all of those and spent a lot of time reviewing all of those possibilities, and to date, the committee recommended to the school board that a facility that is a 5 through 12 facility be constructed. Now, the task forces are currently working on grade organization because there's one, the change of bringing 5th grade in is substantial. And so they have a committee of teachers and administrator and parents to review and examine that issue. So when we say that a school is going to be this size and it's going to cost this much, we're not even sure yet what that makeup of that school will look like. Will it be a 6 through 8, 6 through 12 as it currently is? Will it be a 5 through, or a 5 through 12?
Well, that's why I'm concerned, because I'm hearing the figure of 967 students. That's what they're planning to
Well,
build with the
we-
expansion of up to 1,200.
That building, the building could house up to 1,200. It would not be built for 1,200, however, it would be built for approximately 950 students. We currently have, I just looked at that number today. We currently have about 750, give or take, don't hold me to that number, students in grades 5 through 12. So they have, and the reason that we speculated 950 was because we have been talking to Nottingham. And the goal of that was to be able to have a school that was a little bit larger, that would afford more curriculum opportunities for students, because we're very limited in Newmarket because of our size and the cost of having classes when you have small numbers. And also the opportunity to help us as we move forward in this building to have a partner in it. So we continue to have discussions with Nottingham. As a matter of fact, the Nottingham School Board is talking about this very issue tonight as we speak. So we haven't dismissed that yet. We don't know if it's going to work. But we felt that many people in the community, based on the survey, based on the information that we got, were very interested in Newmarket working in collaboration with another community. So you can see these things are still up in the air, and I don't anticipate that we will bring anything to the community hard and fast until after the 1st of November. I just want you to know that there's planned for numbers of public hearings, opportunities for the community to come in, get information, digest this. As dictated by law, we must have a public hearing on a bond. We'll have a separate public hearing on that bond, separate from the budget process. And so we know that there will be ample opportunity for the community to ask good questions, hard questions. And people are very sensitive to the tax issue. I want you to know that, Dana.
Thank you for explaining the committee had taken the time to look at the school, and we got that now on tape. We've got it in the public eye, because that's a question that's been raised by, I've heard. But thank you.
Councilor Morrison.
Hi, this might be oddly phrased, but is there going to be, there won't be a building plan taking into account the Nottingham students without the public having a chance to have a say on that, whether or not they want to have a cooperative school or a, what is it called?
I don't think the plans to have a cooperative school right now. I think they would, right
Well, in
now,
schools-
would
in school-
tuition them in.
The thinking is, in the part of Nottingham, is that they would tuition our students in, they would tuition their students into our school,
All of them,
their high school population.
all of them.
They go to
It's
Dover.
200. They currently, well, they
Right.
go all over the place right now. Nottingham youngsters are at Co-Brown, they're in Dover,
Right.
and
But
they
it's- it
also
would still
have
be the two
Raymond.
towns in the one school.
Right.
So it's, but I guess what I'm saying is, if there's a plan for a building big enough to, to house that population, will it be obvious to the people voting on this that they'll be voting for Nottingham tuition students? or is
Yes,
it-
I mean, that would be very clear to the community. There will be opportunity, and the school board will provide opportunity for some input from the community relative to that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next item, Fire Department personnel. Fire Chief Rick Molesky.
I was wondering if there was anything to say about what she just presented, that's all, my point of view.
There's no public comment on, she was on the agenda.
Well, Mr. Hart said there was,
I said that you had the opportunity to speak during the public forum, which is the first agenda item, Mr. Porter. But
How can
we
they
give him-
I had a problem last week, I went to the wrong meeting, they were just the school thing, and I wanted to say something there, they shut me out.
Mr. Porterata, if you want to speak in regards to school, I mean, we're the council, she's just giving us an update. You need to go to a school board meeting.
Well, no.
And the meeting that you went to last week was a task force meeting. They were designing groups of the public to work on aspects
I
of the
realized that
facility.
afterward because that group that was in there was mostly teachers anyway. But anyway, the only thing I'm trying to say is, I mean, everything she said, is that the facts? No, because I read different items in the paper, and she's coming up with 700 and some pupils from 5 to 12, and I get a paper here saying there's about 615 pupils from 5 to 12. And what bothers me the most is taking out-of-town pupils into our school system, and the reason they want this $30 million school to take in 200 kids from Nottingham.
I think what you need to do is go to a school board meeting, because we can't, I mean,
I know,
I
but
can
I'm
listen to you, Mr. Porterata, but I'm not gonna,
I know, but I want to know where I stand, because if this goes up to $3 to $5 or $6, I just can't stay in this town. I just want to know ahead of time so I can start looking, because for some reason, I'm not getting no answers from nobody. There were 3 different versions we were supposed to have about this school.
there is a school board meeting tomorrow night at 7 o'clock in
Not
this
gonna do no good, because they're all one way down there, because I understand they were gonna talk about 3 different versions on this school, the cost.
I
But
think
one
you're-
man on the school board, according to the editorial, I quote, that he said he don't wanna hear about any other thing but the big school, 29th and $30 million. He don't wanna hear about any other options.
Okay,
I mean, I'm just saying, something ought to be looked into to find out what's going on.
yep, and
I mean,
Mr.
this is gonna be a
Porterata,
lot of money in taxes.
you need to go to the school board, because they're the ones that make the decisions on that. The council has no say as far as that goes. You can get involved as the public, you are more than welcome to bring public comment to the school board, and I think they have a forum for that tomorrow night at their business meeting, and I would encourage you to go. It's televised. Other people will hear your comments. People are hearing them tonight. I'm sure you're not the only one with those concerns.
But all I'm saying is, the facts I don't understand here, because they're saying one thing to the other thing, and then saying, well, we're gonna have to vote for taking out-of-state students in here and everything else. That's why we're gonna build this big school. If we
Well-
didn't take the 200 kids, we wouldn't have to build a big school.
Well, and that's
I
a
mean, I
very
understand
important
this, Tom.
comment, and I think you should,
I'm just
that's exactly
disappointed,
why-
that's all.
well, I think you should go and tell them. And I encourage you to go, and tomorrow night they're having a meeting.
I'm trying to speak more for the senior citizen and the elderly, which nobody speaks for them anyway. We're gonna live in this town, and we don't wanna be pressed into a situation like coming up on this school system, where they don't wanna discuss any items, like you brought it up in the first place about a 10 million, the 20-year outlook. Now they're looking for a 50-year outlook. I don't wanna pay for something for 50 years. I mean, 10, 20 years I can probably live with. And let the person after 10, 20 years, let them work about the 50 years. But to spend all this money and all that and take 6 kids in, I don't see why somebody don't speak about this at all, because there's other things this town needs besides that they're building $30 million for school, and you don't even know the cost. I mean,
Mr. Porterata,
What
I
is
don't
it?
want to be the person to, I don't want to tell you that I don't want to listen to you. But this is the wrong forum for what you're saying. I think the
I've lived in this
people
town over
that,
50 years.
the
I've been
people
paying
that need to
taxes.
hear you aren't here tonight. I'm trying to help you.
I know you're trying to help me, but I was shut out of that school board, that meeting last week, never mind, it was about
Well,
the schools.
then
They're never
you
gonna listen to me, they're
You
gonna
need
have
to
their
go tell
opinion,
them
that's
that
it. They
you
don't
were
wanna
shut
listen
out
to
of that
taxpayers.
meeting.
I mean, I always thought the council controlled a lot of input of anything that's coming into this town.
No, we have no control over the school budget or what they do.
It's like Canada. What's that paper that you have in your hand, Mr. Porterata?
What's that?
What's the paper that you have, that you're citing?
Editorial on the Fosters.
That's from Foster's Daily Democrat? The 650?
Brian, I really don't want to continue this
I just wanna
discussion.
just-
Okay, but maybe you can ask them
All right.
after.
That he just answered.
Jen?
Thank you.
Well, that's what I'm saying, I gotta get it from somewhere, I don't get it from anybody else. I mean, she was not coherent about it, it's saying that when we vote, we're gonna vote for them 200 students to come in from Nottingham, is that right? Is that what she said?
Maybe.
We don't know. Go to the school board meetings.
No.
Whatever happens, it'll come down to a
No
vote.
good.
We're learning just like you are. And if we want to know what the school's doing, we go to the school meeting.
Now, let me put it in fact, I'm not against the school, some type of maybe building we need, but this going overboard when we gotta build a big school so we can take out-of-town students. I mean, if they have 200 high school students, then let them build their own high school.
I think you need to go to tomorrow's night's meeting, and it's being in this room at 7 o'clock. Jen?
I just,
Throw me out.
it sounds like there's a miscommunication about the process of when people can speak. So if we could just clarify that, I think it would be helpful, and it would be helpful for me. So you're saying that, I realize that the questions that he is asking are actual questions that he needs answered by the school board. But if he were to want to make a statement to us based on how he felt about that would be the appropriate time. Because, and here, public forum is non-agenda items only, so he really couldn't have spoke about the school facilities because it's an agenda item.
Right.
So I want to clarify the process so we're not doing this again next month, that's all. I'm just saying, so if he wanted to make a comment, it would be appropriate for him to do it on an update on school facilities, but it would just be for him to make a statement about how he felt, for us to consider it, but that if he had the questions, he really needed to ask the school facilities?
Right.
Is that appropriate? I just want to make sure that we understand the process so people know when they can talk and when they can't.
Yeah, well, basically, I think tonight we got an update from the superintendent, a courtesy call. I don't think the council was here to debate the issue, and we could have, I think we did entertain Mr. Potter's comments tonight, no question.
Right.
But I think he's got to be encouraged to go to the proper forum, which is the school board, because we do not affect their votes, and there is a town meeting that they conduct separately and independently. And again, that's for the public to vote on. The town meetings are separate.
Right, and I agree with everything you just said, and let's take this instance out for a second, but if someone has a comment to make at a business meeting regarding one of the agenda items, they're able to stand up and make that comment at a business meeting with the agenda item.
It's the discretion of the chair, generally.
It's the discretion of the chair. Okay,
In the
that's all I
past, we
wanted.
have, when I was
just-
chair, I entertained
right.
it. In this case, I mean, if I was in Lorian's seat, I probably would have said, go to
I'm-
the school board meeting.
And I
because
agree with the
we can't
decision that she
react.
made, but I just want to know what the actual process is so people will know.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
No, the only
Fire
thing I'm
chief.
saying is, I'm not against anything about building the school, or anything else. I just want to know what happened to the previous, they were going to have all kind of input on it, saying 3 different versions and all that, and I thought we were going to vote on these 3 different versions, which one we thought was going to be important. That included the one that's 29 and 30, the 10 to 15, or whatever it was. That's what I'm trying to say. But when I hear about 200 students coming in because, well, we're going to build a bigger high school, it shouldn't be that way. It should be only thing about our own students, our own town. That's what I'm trying to put across.
Thanks.
I mean, I've been living in
Your
town
point's
for
well
many-
taken, but
Thank you.
it needs to go to the school board.
Okay.
They won't want me there. I mean, I'm against it. but
Well,
I'm just
Mr.
saying.
Porterata, you are always welcome at my meeting. I'm
I
sorry.
second that.
Fire Department personnel.
What are you waiting for?
Just want to bring you up to speed. We're having trouble with daytime coverage. We've lost some key people that were working second shift.
Rick, can you just specify daytime coverage as to, because.
Monday
we're on-
through Friday.
For fire,
fire-
ambulance?
Fire ambulance.
Okay.
I have just a little info for you. Bring you up to speed a little bit. Currently, we have 44 members. 34 are EMTs, 27 are firefighters, 10 of them are crossed, 17 of them are cross-trained. We work with UNH students. We do have some students, but daytime coverage is crucial right now. We had 23 calls we've lost to mutual aid calls. 19 of those were EMS. And if it was an acute medical aid, somebody's life could have been lost due to this process, so that's why I'm bringing it up to your attention. There's not a lot else I can do. We do have a pretty good group of people, but they're not all working in town now, and I lost seven people that work second shift or third shift. that aren't around during the day now, so.
Administrator Dixon?
Yeah. Tonight, Rick was just going to make you aware of and let the public be aware of the problem on coverage between 7 and 5, I believe it is, Monday through Friday. And the reason for it, as he said, 7 of his staff people have either left town or jobs
Changed.
and things of that nature, changes in their
Second
lives.
shift.
And with that, at the next workshop, he's in the process of developing some figures and everything. And we discussed it briefly in non-public, the problem of manning at the prior meeting, the department. And I think that our recommendation is going to be that the town council considers some sort of full-time staffing and the need to go to a special town meeting to address it. And Rick will have everything prepared for us for the workshop on the 21st, I believe it is. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
That's the next meeting, yeah.
Yeah. So we can have a real in-depth discussion on it.
I did speak with Durham. Durham's doesn't have a problem covering for us, but if someone has an acute medical aid, that's 10, 12-minute response time.
I think your commitment from Durham, because I was interested in that discussion, they indicated that they would be willing to cover for a reasonable period of time until you got to a...
Yeah, as long as it wasn't for like a year. We weren't asking for a year's time. We're on a fiscal.
Okay.
And just to give you a little background, the increases, in 2003, we had a 15% increase. Last year was 7. Right now, we're 9. We're probably going to break 900 calls. And just to give you some background information, Nottingham did 342 calls, and they put on 2 people 5 years ago. Lee put on 2 people last year. They did 367 last year. Kingston has 5 people now. Epping has 2 people. Brentwood put on 2 people. The only other town really around us that has yet to do this is Stratham and Newfields. Newfields did 99 calls last year. But they don't run it. We cover them with the ambulance.
If we cover them with the ambulance, are they aware of our situation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exeter covered a couple calls for us for them. They use that. If we can't cover it, they usually use Stratham or Exeter.
Okay, Counselor Glennon and then Counselor Hart.
Understand the situation. I was not here at the last meeting, but I followed it on the video. What are the possibilities of training some DPW people? And what are the possibilities where there's police officers in town? Trained, I mean, they're there.
If you go on a medical aid today, it's 3 hours.
If you go where now?
If it's an ambulance call, you're tied up for 3 hours. They have new reporting system. It's called Tempsys. You have to do it on the computer now. So if you get to the hospital and there's a couple other ambulances there filling out their run report, you have to wait for the computer.
At the hospital?
We do have a computer back at the station, but they don't like you to leave prior to filling that out. You can come back and fill it out, but then you have to fax it in. Portsmouth Fire complained to Portsmouth. They did a secure fax line now so that you can, because of the HEPA violations, you can't just send that through a fax. Yeah. So they have a secured line now. So they are working on things. But if you go on a medical aid, you're gone for 3 hours.
Okay, so what's the difference whether somebody from the town crew is gone for 3 hours or somebody that we have hired full-time is gone for 3 hours? You still don't have the coverage.
No one's doing that other job, though.
Okay, I'm just going to play the devil's advocate here, okay? Because you're probably going to hear this. Is the concern of the public's going to be, now I know why they built the fire department and the ambulance to the size they did. The plan was. And I'm not saying that's what the plan was, but that's what you're going to hear, and it's going to be a tough situation. I mean, I'm not saying whether I agree with it or disagree with it, but I understand your need, but I also understand where the public's going to come from.
And we planned on that knowing this would happen down the road, we didn't know when. And this really, I have some notes here. We had 5 calls in June, 3 in July, 7 in August, and 1 so far for September, that mutual aid calls.
And just
Prior to that, we had a 1, and that was due to dual calls where both ambulances were out, and we had no more ambulances, so we had to call mutual aid. Then we had 0. Then we had 1, and a lot of the ones is when you have dual calls, you'll have triple calls. We only have so many ambulances.
When you put this together, I guess for our next meeting, or whenever we discuss it, will we have figures to what this would cost? And where will those figures come from? Will this be in the next fiscal year, or will we be having, I mean, if we need it now, we can't possibly wait until the next fiscal
Well,
year.
we're thinking of a special meeting, special town meeting. And just to, I don't know, I mean, yes, they did build the fire station thinking someday they were gonna have to, that was no secret, that was out in the public, that, at some point, we may
Somewhere
have to have full-time.
Down the road was
But
the operative
you
word.
can't predict losing 7 people in 3 weeks.
Mhm.
You can't predict that.
They were key people, they covered a lot of calls. This gentleman just came in, was huge daytime coverage, and he just got a new job. He works in Greenland now.
Okay, well,
Just,
I'm sorry, Brian was first, then Administrator Dixon.
Well, let's just put the rumor to rest, because it's not true that we build it in anticipation that this year we go back and have a special town meeting to ask the
No.
voters. I know, I mean, I'm just saying, the council members, including you, Councilor Glennon, were here and helped participate in the process of putting that fire station design together and put it to the voters, and I really didn't realize how much we relied on volunteers, and that we're one of the few communities that still was only volunteer. And so I think we should be grateful to them for doing it for so long, and kind of say, we've been lucky and we've been saving a ton of money, and we had to bite the bullet earlier. And I know when you talked about with us previously, you talked about maybe 4 staffers, and I would ask you to come back with proposals that if that's what you recommend, fine, but also give us 2, the minimum, because I don't think financially we can afford a jump to 4, based on the figures that I've heard in other towns. And the fact that towns like Kingston, which are not as large as ours, more like 5,000 or 6,000 people, have full-time. Epping has full-time, and Epping is much stingier with their money than we are, believe it or not. I think we've been lucky. So, yeah, we built a fire station that would meet the needs for the next 15, 20 years, including a second floor that has the capacity to have bunk rooms. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about daytime coverage, because we've got great volunteers for the night shifts. So
just Monday through Friday.
Yep. So, I'm not looking forward to the cost of it or to other things, but we did have a member of the community come to us a couple months ago and say, keep the old fire station, the old ambulance building, and hire full-time people, because it takes too long to get coverage as it is. So I think there's people in the community who think this is a worthy investment, and just present to us different options, please.
The new station has no, if anything, it's drawn in more people. We just picked up 4 people last night, 4 new people. 2 of them are college students, so they might be able to help us out a little bit. But Monday through Friday, you cannot guarantee the ambulance from Newmarket coming to your house in Newmarket.
Just the ambulance or fire too?
Well, fire,
If we have a
if
fire.
there's a fire, I'll be in the truck by
right,
myself,
by yourself.
maybe with one other guy. It depends on where he's working. He's a carpenter. If he's working in town, he's here. If he's working in Portsmouth, he's not.
And one person cannot drive the ambulance, is that correct? You
No, you have to have 2 people, but if you do 2 people, it doesn't do anything for the fire truck.
Right,
You
so
know,
you both can't,
that's
if it's a
why
car
That's why I
accident.
was saying 4. We do a little more EMS than fire, so if we do 900 calls this year, 600 of that'll be EMS and 400 of it roughly will be fire. And there's a lot of other stuff these people will do also as far as inspections, life safety and stuff like that, that really doesn't get done now just because it can't be done.
Administrator Dixon?
Yes, I'd like to echo the comments of Councilor Hart. I think we're very fortunate that we've been able to survive this long using volunteers. In '99 and 2000, we looked at, we had a problem with response, and we had a recommendation from a volunteer citizens committee at that point to hire at least 2 full-time people. And it was our position to continue with the part-time volunteer staff as long as we could. It made sense. It saved money. We've done that. We've bought 5 years at this point, or practically 6 years at this point with full volunteers. The employment base in your community affects those decisions too as you go. Some communities, like Nottingham, had to go earlier. Kingston had to go earlier than we did, probably too, because of their employment base in the community. If you have some large employers or several employers that employ 15, 20 people, chances are you've got 1 or 2 volunteers for your organization in each of those employment establishments. The fewer employment establishments you have, smaller your pool you have, because your people out-migrate during the day for employment purposes. And basically, we've been very fortunate, and we really hit with a crunch here with, with the change in people's lives, and it really brought it right down around us. So if you look at Nottingham, they don't have much of an employment base during the day. Their people out-migrate. If you look at Kingston, it'd be the same thing. Newmarket has some employment base, but we don't have a lot of active people in that employment base either, do we?
Today, unless someone's on vacation or has a day off, it's Mark Pelzer and myself.
So
And
I think
Mark's just an EMT, he's not fire.
And when we looked at this several years ago, if you recall, we had the Director of Services and Chief from Peterborough here. Some of you were on the board at the time. And that community was expending at that point in time in excess of $400,000 a year. Our budget over the years has not exceeded $170,000 in net revenues. Once you bring in the revenues from the ambulance service, it's cost us about $100,000 a year to run our fire ambulance combined. And other communities have been spending well over that. So, and I would like to dispel the fact too, nobody on this staff, including Rick, entered into this lightly. In fact, I was a proponent last time, no, we can get through somehow. But, other communities are having their problems too with fuel costs and staffing, and, they can only extend themselves so far for their neighbors, and that's what we were up against.
Thank you. Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Councilor Morrison, and then Councilor Hart.
Chief Mulaski, are you looking for, ideally, like an EMT fire split position, like one person who can do both?
They would do both.
Right.
They would do both.
And what do you estimate the cost for something like that for 2 of those positions to be filled?
I've been working some numbers. I actually spoke with Lee because they just did it last year. And his budget went up for putting 2 people on, I believe it was $79,000.
$79,000
for 2 people. I can tell you that the town of Epping has just 2 full-time people, and their budget's $445 and some change. So I don't know what else is in their budget there, but
It's a couple
they only have 2 people.
Compensated for sitting in all that traffic.
Councilor Hart?
The other comment I was going to ask is that if the town administrator, when working with you, Rick, to put together the proposal or recommendations, is not only just to consider that if we have to go to a special town meeting to authorize additional expenditures this year, but to look at the budget of your department, but also the overall town budget, and find cuts that can be made as well. That won't hurt the core operations, but maybe we can delay something for a year. I also know that's especially going to be hard given that gas is $3 a gallon and heating oil is $2.75 a gallon, and we didn't budget for that much. So there's already going to be tightness.
That might be on the special ballot.
So
Through the fire department's budget?
the whole town the whole budget for the town. I just know that every department that has vehicles driving, like Public Works, for the winter plowing, is going to be affected by the higher than anticipated gas prices that look like they might recede a little bit, but probably not sufficiently to meet what our budget was. So, that's all.
Thank you.
Just real quick.
Counselor Morrison.
Chief Malasky, how many of the vehicles in the DPW and of the town vehicles are diesels? Mostly, or most of them?
Pretty much all the equipment and all the bigger trucks are diesel. The only thing that's not diesel would be the pickups.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rick, and we look forward to hearing from you at the workshop. Next item is the Town Administrator's Monthly Report.
Provided it in the package. It is brief. I tried to touch on everything. Got earlier tonight, I did miss something, but basically, I have talked with the auditor. We're close to having our audit report. He was waiting on the report of the trust fund report, which has been compiled and is in his hands at this time. He did advise me, though, that our fund balance was at a figure of $1,804,385. That compares to $1,694,643 last year. This puts us on a very favorable financial setting, whereas we'll be able to continue the utilization of approximately $430,000 from the fund balance without any problem to stabilize the tax rate with DRA, and we may want to consider during the budget process applying some of these funds to some of our bonding authority and decreasing that bonding authority and utilizing that money that way. So we got some decisions we can make. Reported a little bit on Follett's Brook, said we might have more to report tonight, but I don't believe we have anything new other than one well as of last Friday about 10 o'clock was drilled to 600 feet. We got about 2 gallons a minute. We made a joint decision to drill to the 600 feet with George and Leo and myself. They set into the position for a second well, and they put the casing in on late Friday afternoon, and Tuesday grouted it, sealed it. Set in today, and the last I knew, they pulled out because the rock was too hard.
It wasn't the rock that was too hard, it was the material under them. Once they started drilling, I think they got in 20 feet from the casing, and then it came into some soft, loose rock, and it was hard for them to drill because the drill kept going off, so they pulled out so they couldn't drill any further.
Okay, I understood you to say that the rock was too hard, and I never ran across that. Okay.
It was too hard to drill, not the rock was too hard.
Okay, okay.
The drill was being deflected.
Okay.
Softer material.
Yeah. So they've already lost one drill bit there, and they run about $18,000-$20,000. The first hole they lost a drill bit, and so it's still there in the ground, about 45 feet. So I imagine they're not too anxious to lose another one, you know. So we'll have to meet tomorrow morning, and I would say, right, George, this game plan?
We need to make,
Yeah.
So was there any results with the second well, or just that's as far as they got?
That's as far as they got.
Okay.
Nothing, nothing.
How many wells are they taking?
They've only done one in a little bit of 2.
But what's the plan for how many?
3.
Three. And they did want to do the grout on all 3 right now, put the casing in all 3, and George and I talked, and I said, I think maybe we should confer with Leo, because she's an eminent part of this, before we concur with that. And Leo was taking the air of caution and said, you know, I think we should hold off on sinking that money in the third basin until we have an actual result on a second well. And I think probably that's a pretty good choice.
Can I ask a question on that?
Sure.
Where are we with DES?
The committee had a meeting, Leo, George, no, George was away, excuse me. Leo, Counselor Jerry Hamill, Mary Courier, and Jerry Lang. Have I included everyone, Leo? I think so, huh? So anyway, we had a meeting in my office. And we discussed strategies, and Mary Courier and Jerry Lang are in the process of putting together some bullet points. When they get those together, they're going to send it to the committee. The committee is going to fill in on the bullet points. Then we will set up, also, we were waiting to get the results on our wells. We figure we might have them by mid-September, so that when we meet with DES, we have a full presentation and a full set of facts.
In my understanding, that DES is not happy with the scope of the project and how it's expanded out into, in other words, a lot larger, and a lot more work is being done in the wetlands area and what they had originally thought.
No,
Is
I
that
don't think
correct?
that's the case, is it, Leo? I don't think that's the case at all.
I think basically the Wetlands Bureau was really happy, and they worked with Jerry Lang, and everything was ready to be approved 2-3 months ago, and the wetlands Frank Richardson was about ready to give his wetlands approval, and what happened is 2 other sections of the Water Bureau, the Water Supply Engineering Bureau and the in-stream flow people, went to the next level and said that, no, they didn't think that the wetlands impact was so great that it would justify this, and so the 2-level up boss says, well, he's the one that prevented the wetlands people from giving the wetlands approval. So the wetlands people are satisfied with it. It's the water supply and in-stream flow people who think that more work should be done before this restoration is done. And they give their boss some kind of, I think faulty information.
Okay.
And basically, we hope to refute that if we can get a meeting with the head of water supply.
Okay.
Basically, it's the Clean Water Act that's come into play.
Right, that's come into
really-
play. It's going to oversee this whole project?
Well, I
Sort of?
wouldn't go that far. Basically, Frank Richardson from the Wetlands Bureau took the position that they were going in to maintain a filtration system, an existing filtration system, which is correct, okay? Through the Clean Water Act, everything, it goes further than that, and they feel, okay, yes, it may be a filtration system, but it was abandoned. We want to go back in. We got to relook at all the habitat there, the impact on all the bugs, pretty much, okay? So we got 2 different philosophies here. Frank felt he had, or say, Wetlands Bureau rep felt he had the authority to authorize this permit and the permitting process through a restoration, okay? A repair of the existing filtration system, okay? In a man-made channel. And that's all true. But then the clean water people come in and they say, well, yes, but it's in a wetland area and we're concerned about all those little bugs.
If I recall correctly, wasn't the letter, basically, the letter from, was it Frank Richardson?
Bob
Bob
Mann.
Mann stated that he felt that the design, as it was designed currently, that sustainable yield was an issue, is that correct?
Well, yeah, I think that that's always been an issue with Bob Mann's office.
That's true.
Right from the get-go.
Yes.
And I think the point that we have to make is that we don't plan to run this necessarily 12 months out of the year, but we can run it 8 or 9 months of the year and not run our wells those 8 or 9 months of the year, then our wells would be capable of carrying us through the rest of it. And that's basically one of the groups saying, no, what can you get 12 months out of the year as if this was our only source?
Right, right.
And basically, a water management plan normally balances 2-3 sources so that you will get enough water throughout the year, not from all 3 sources individually enough to carry the whole year, but by using all 3 of them, then you have capability of getting it through the year.
I mean, right now, without doing anything, there's no sustainable yield out there. I mean, there's no water in that.
I don't, that's debatable too. I mean, here we are in August, really dry. We pumped 2,000 gallons a minute for almost 8-10 hours last week, and we couldn't get that sucker dry. 2,000
Really?
gallons a minute for 8 hours. And so what do you say, we got no water there? So it's, that's debatable.
Is that
how-
something that you would bring to them, say, look, we, you know?
Well, that and other things, yes, plus the brook, the well and everything, but,
It just looks like it's dry, but it's hard to tell with all that.
well,
It's not dry.
it's not dry. We pumped and pumped and pumped and pumped and pumped.
So that
and
answered
pumped.
my question with the, yes.
But if you take a walk down there as a council right now, you'll see that we have cleaned up the area considerably. The
Public Works really did a hell of a job down there the past week by mowing along the brooks, and so you can, Mary Courier wanted it cleaned up so she could take pictures to take to the Water Supply Bureau in Concord and show actually what's there, and until it was cleaned up, the stuff was over your head. I mean, you could be 3 feet from Falls Brook and you couldn't see it. And so now they've done a good job by mowing both sides of the brook so you can see where the brook is and you can see something that you can talk about rather than looking at an aerial view.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Hart and then Counselor Jarvis.
On the Falls Brook, so is the committee gonna meet and make recommendations and bring it back to the council for how to proceed?
on where we go.
On-
Yeah,
not the
when we get
wells.
everything together.
Okay.
Yeah, we got it.
All right, that's all, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, we'll come
Counselor
back to it.
Jarvis?
Great.
Leo, can you just tell me what you just referred to a place that you were pumping and pumping and couldn't get it to stop pumping? Where were you? What were you just talking about?
Falsbrook, you
Where in Fallsbrook? Like, I was over there today and walked around. Where were you saying you were pumping from? Because the first well you didn't get, are you talking about the first well that you?
No,
No,
stream
this
itself.
has to do with
You're
the
just-
brook itself.
Oh, you're talking about the brook, pumping it right from the
running
brook.
down. We
So
pump
they
it
can
out
get
of
an
one
excavator.
manhole, and
Trying
we
to get
pump
that,
it
I
out
see.
of the filter bed.
Okay.
We had 2 different pumps pumping. and
Just trying to get the water out of there to
trying
get in
the
there.
water down to see just what was in the filter bed itself and what the vegetation, whatever was, and after 8 hours or so we pumped, and we got it down about, we had to get it down nearly 3.5 feet. We got it down 1.5 feet or so. And
Okay, thanks.
Counselor Morrison?
I don't know if this is a question for Leo or Al, but in this letter that we got from Robert Mann, in the second paragraph, it says, because of the proposed extensive modifications of the wetland systems and the proposed withdrawal of all stream flow during some periods, certification of the existing design is not possible.
Well, I
I'm sorry if
think-
you already explained that. Like, can you summarize what that?
Well, I think here again, and I don't know why Bob is taking that approach, because we have made it clear that we are not going to be drawing in the dry months. We want to draw on this in the high flow periods, probably from October through the end of May or June, okay? Beyond that, we aren't going to be drawing. So he's talking about, there's...
Well, he says actually the withdrawal of all stream flow during some periods. Is that
Well, I think what he's
accurate?
getting at, yeah, if we operated in the summertime, we'd probably take a substantial amount.
You wanna take the whole thing?
Remember, the
A
Falls
lot.
Brooks
Enough.
is a gravity brook. It starts way up in Lee, and it comes down, flows down for about 2 miles. Where we are drawing it is at the very end of the filter bed, just before it goes at the backwater to Piscasset.
Mhm.
So we are not gonna draw any water out of 2 miles of Falls Brook. It all comes down by gravity.
Mhm.
All we're gonna do is when it gets to the very end of it, into the filter bed, we'll draw some water out of it. We're not gonna change the flow of Falls Brook at all in that 2.5 miles. The only place we will draw it down is when it gets into the filter bed itself.
Right.
And that's 100 feet by 30 feet. And, no, you can't, it's coming down by gravity. You can't suck it down the
Yep.
brook, so it's gonna, the flow of Falls Brook, and at 2.5 miles, is not gonna be affected one iota by taking water out of the filter bed. That all flows down by gravity, and it's gonna stay the same.
But we aren't going to be taking it out in that period of time anyway.
And that's the other thing, but
But I guess if this guy still says, oh, well, we're not going to approve it, does that sort of leave us a bit?
I think this is where the discussions come in, and that's where Jerry and Mary will come into play, and along with the local folks when we meet with DES. The other thing I would say is that as far as significant alterations, the significant alterations have already been made. They've been made for the last 80 years, huh? 100 years. So, and they acknowledge that it's been altered there by man.
Is it something where it won't be grandfathered because of the...
There's no grandfathering.
Right.
Made that very clear.
There's no grandfather in wetlands thing, which is true, but there's still the debate as to man is saying, well, this has gone back to a natural wetlands habitat, which, how do you say it's been a natural wetlands habitat if you have dams, if you have pipes all through it, it's not natural, it's man-made. And I guess the abandonment is arguable too. I mean, we drew out of Falls Brook in 2002. And they're saying, oh no, we haven't done anything since the early 1990s. We have evidence that shows that we actually did do withdrawals from Falls
When we ran the camera up through to determine what was in the line, if it was clogged and everything, we actually, tried to.
Well, we have plenty of points to argue, and Bob Mann and whatnot, the information they gave their boss has plenty of holes in it that we think that we can refute.
Okay.
Time's up.
Beg your pardon.
All right. Thank you.
Let's see. Probably a material thing I should mention in my report. Comcast has served us notice that they would like to start discussing the renewal process of the franchise agreement. This is one of the earlier notifications, but it certainly is within the framework of the agreement and the law. I would like to suggest as we move on, that perhaps maybe the council would consider me approaching John Algren, because he, as I understand it, led the negotiation effort in '93. Did a very good job. It's a very good agreement. And we got to go through a series of public hearing input sessions and everything, and if John would think he had the time, I think he would be an excellent person to help us approach this renewal process. If the council is in agreement, I would approach him and see if he would want to serve in that capacity, and then we can talk about a committee set up with him.
Councilor Morrison?
Is there anybody else but I mean, not that I don't even have a TV. Is there any? It's just the one company, right?
Metrocast.
Comcast.
Right.
But there are other companies.
Yeah, there are other companies. That's a significant.
But they own the lines.
Yeah, they own the lines, and if another company's going to come in, and even though that gets very complicated, okay? But it's not saying, what we will end up negotiating probably is a non-exclusive, okay? So there is that possibility. Fact is, you're not that big a market, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. No, I was just clearing it.
You know?
I think John, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Brian.
I think John Algren would be great, but I'd rather him focus his energy with the NCDC. And I know he's the chair of that, so he'll probably say no, but it'd be worth asking.
If he does it, maybe he'll have a suggestion, because he did a very good job in the framework, because I've negotiated a couple of these prior to my arrival here, and he did an excellent job. So if he did have the time, it would be great. If he doesn't have the time, maybe he'd have a suggestion for us to go ahead to work on it.
Is everyone okay with that?
I think it's a great idea.
Councilor Jarvis?
My question was just, do we have another suggestion? Because he did mention earlier tonight that he was going to be tied up with a lot of stuff and wasn't going to have enough time to meet his NCDC needs, that somebody else would be coming to speak for him, so.
Yeah. Hopefully, he might be able to help us with another suggestion.
I think we should offer it to him anyways, because the last time
Also, as part of my report, the town clerk, and I believe I included that, she's going to come to you and talk with us on the 21st. She has some suggestions. This has been worked out with the staff, talked over with the staff. It's been discussed as people have come into the office, better ways and times in which they could serve their needs. So she's come up with a new proposed hours of operations for the town clerk's office, and hopefully you all will look at that, and on the 21st, she'll be here to discuss it with you. She'd like to have your concurrence as she considers these changes. I've also been working with Peter Hamlin. First meeting, bringing people in will be to discuss what might be available for businesses as we go about our redevelopment in the downtown effort, the reconstruction. Will be Dean Eastman. He'll be here on the 14th. I was asked also if we could have part of the design team from Underwood present, just to take the input and whatnot. And Phil McDonald will be attending the meeting on the 14th, and I will also be there. Certainly, as the council has the time, I think the NBA would welcome any of the council members to sit in the audience and hear what's going on, and ask questions too. But this will be the first of probably 3 or 4 meetings or more with various people, as to try to get the business association in a dialogue with us and with other agencies as to what might be out there to help.
Counselor Hart?
I have a couple questions that weren't addressed in the report. When do we expect the downtown job description?
I have it done, so I can give that to you in your next
Can we schedule that for discussion at the workshop? And
Yep.
that'd be great. Okay. Have you met with the attorney regarding the lawsuit with the either threatened or existing lawsuit on the whole police chief and student thing?
We were going to perhaps maybe just touch on that later tonight, but we could not get. It wouldn't have been fruitful to have a meeting. We couldn't get it coordinated, for a meeting here within the last 2 weeks with the attorney.
Okay.
They're talking, and as soon as
They meaning the
our
insurance
attorney,
company and our attorney?
Yeah, and as soon as there's that dialogue has produced something, then they're ready to meet with us.
Okay. And the last question was, how has the process for hiring a new technology staff member, where are you at in that?
He's on board.
Oh.
Okay. The staff, the procedure was handled by Mel Hodgson and Clay Mitchell. They did the interviews, they posted the job.
So who has been hired?
His name is Doug. I've met him twice.
Okay.
He's very capable, I will say that. In a couple of discussions I've had with him. He's from Lee. He is formerly with the Seabrook School Department. And I think we're very fortunate to have him on board. He has all of the qualifications and certifications that Mike Gill had.
Mhm.
And he's fitting in very well right now. I think he's been out and active in some of the departments, maybe.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure that, just to find out where we are. I knew the interviews were underway, so that's great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Counselor Glennon?
Thank you. Al, is he downstairs tonight running the video?
No, he is not.
Okay.
We have,
A question that I'd like to address, Al, is the council has approved through the budget process your trips and everything for, what is it, MC?
the ICMA and stuff, yeah.
Right. Where are we at as far as an average cost of one of those trips? We never see those reports, and I just was...
Well, I don't necessarily report on them. The ICMA registration and everything is a $2,000 or more meeting, okay? Registration is about $1,100, depending on how many ICMA university courses I take.
Okay, and how often do you go through those?
ICMA is once a year.
It is once a year. So that would be one conference you might go to. How many other conferences would you be going to?
Probably 1 to 2 others, during, major conferences during the course of the year, yeah.
And they're held all over the country, so it's never in the same spot, right?
Yeah, you know,
Okay, can you give us a sense of what an average conference would cost, including airfare, hotel, your car rental?
depending whether it's on the East Coast or West Coast, and right now, this year, it's in Minneapolis, so the ICMA, it'll probably run around 2,200, 2,300.
And that's inclusive to everything?
Yes,
What month is it?
this month coming up.
Oh, sure. That's good.
Okay. And the only other question I have is that when you go to these conferences, or I think you have done it with the vacation part of it, if you could include that in your report, because one time you had gone to a conference, and it was the day after, I think, a council meeting or a workshop, and I happened to call your office looking for some information, and I was told that you were out. So I just said, okay, when do you think you'll be back? Well, he's gone for the whole week to a conference, and I remember that, we hadn't heard anything. It's not that, and please don't get me wrong, we're not trying to keep tabs on you, but it would be nice to know that your administrator is out of town, so.
Generally, my chair knows. Believe it or not, there's a lot of times when my staff are attending meetings out of state and everything, and they generally keep me informed, but I forget about it, and I call for them, and they're not there. So it's,
But
something.
I know one time I called, and you were up in Maine on vacation, and I was told you're at a conference. I said, oh, God, okay. And a couple of days later, I said the same thing to that individual, and looked at me and said, no, he's on vacation, he's up in Maine. And I'm like, well, you said he was at a conference, I think it's just, if we could include that in your report. It's a minor thing.
Okay, anything else on,
No, I'm all set, thank you.
Nope. Town council to consider old business. Leah, do you feel a need to go over Falls Brook again? Thank you, appreciate it. If those of you who have not spoken to me or did not put it in my mailbox, I'd like to remind you that before we leave tonight, I need your copy of
Performance review?
your performance review on Al before you leave tonight. And also want to ask you guys, I don't know, I've got 7 things right now for the workshop on the 21st. 3 of them look like they're gonna be at least hour conversations. So I'm not sure how you guys want to do this. Do you want to have a special separate meeting to do this, or do you want to do it in non-public after the workshop next week?
Performance review?
Yeah.
I'd say, I would recommend,
I think-
request a special meeting.
And I think we did it that way before, didn't we? Yeah.
Did we?
Special meeting?
We had several.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we had several of them, yeah. I think a special meeting, get it done, get it over with. And I don't think it's fair to Al to hang on to like we did before.
Okay, so I would like to suggest the following Wednesday, the 28th.
Following Wednesday?
Not following this one, following the workshop.
Well, that's when the
28?
September 28th.
oh, I'm sorry, I was thinking you meant next Wednesday. 'Cause that's when the NBA is gonna be meeting with, okay, yeah, that's fine.
September 28th?
Yeah,
7 o'clock here.
Yep, non-public.
Performance
Wear your
review.
jammies if you want.
oh, it's not gonna be that long, I hope.
So you have to give.
Are you serious about that? What?
No, I'm not.
Performance review, wow. You have to turn this.
Sorry.
Right.
So that's a meeting for just the council. Right. I won't be there, and it's a discussion.
Right.
special
I
meeting.
completely spaced out. Can I get it to Lorraine tomorrow?
You just have to sit downstairs and watch it.
Watch it.
Okay, anything else under old business?
I apologize, Madam Chair, that all the items I had written underneath old business, I asked Al, so I was ahead of myself on the agenda. I realized they weren't part of the report, so I apologize.
That's fine. Counselor Jarvis.
I just have a couple. Actually, this was what you just asked me, and we didn't talk about it, but is there a time when we're going to discuss the Penachuk?
We have an RFP out right now. They've applied for it for,
We're looking at recharge, we're looking at the aquifer delineation.
We just awarded that contract.
Oh, yeah, okay, but we
We
got
put an
RFP right
addendum.
now for the recharge.
Right.
For recharge, and also hydrogeological
Yeah.
work, there we go. That's many out.
Is that the one where we look for new areas?
right.
Yeah, try to identify.
And I believe
groundwater sources.
Yeah,
that was
instead of-
one of the things that at least I got from the discussion as a next step. It's when they go view it from the air and they try to find, because of all the new technology, they try to find places where there may be new opportunities for water that we couldn't see the last time we did it, or see if there's opportunities we just didn't capitalize on before. They're one of the people that have submitted a bid for that.
Well,
It's not like-
just left, but there are probably 11 concerns
Yeah.
that showed up for the pre-proposal
11
conference.
companies?
Right.
11 companies.
Oh, okay.
You know, so
Oh,
there's
11
a number of
companies.
them.
Oh,
And I think Pennachuck is one of them.
Yeah.
So that what you're saying then, can I just
No,
finish for a
I'm
second?
sorry, yeah.
Is that the way that we're kind of handling their presentation is that we're going to entertain their possible response to this RFP for this one particular project, see how that goes out, and then maybe make some decisions on whether or not we would look at the possibilities of outsourcing our water problems to them.
Right, and part of the reason that I think we should do that route is
Right.
because there may be an opportunity for a well somewhere that we just haven't seen
Right.
yet. It would
Makes sense.
bring
I just
someone
wanted to
on
make-
board and, you know what I'm saying?
No, it makes absolute sense. I just wanted to see where we were in the process with them. And then I was wondering about an update on the parking committee, where we kind of stand on what they're
Well, I think
working
we
on.
got to discuss that at the next workshop. We made some decisions, I believe, on parking fee for spaces, let's say, similar to what Portsmouth has. The parking committee has also made a recommendation that we look at metering, and the TIF committee has concurred with that. And the metering not just the parking lots, but
Downtown.
downtown also. So those are going to be lengthy discussions, I'm sure.
So we'll have some information. We'll discuss that at the next workshop.
Should have it on the next.
And then what
Get
about?
it all in, yeah.
What about, I noticed that Rick's been working and it's paved at the Railroad Street parking. Our lights are supposed to go in there, right? So it's just in the works, it hasn't gotten that
Yeah,
far?
the bases are all in.
Okay.
And the electrical is run, and it's just waiting on the fixtures.
And then I noticed, do we have plans to put any lights on the municipal parking down by the Joyce's area?
Yes. Well, when you say,
The
Boat launch?
municipal parking by the
Boat
boat
launch.
launch.
well, we don't have any plans for that right now, I don't believe. What we do have is lighting fixtures that's going in the park area that would potentially light
Light that
the
up.
area.
Because I've seen the bases for those
Yeah.
down there along the Riverwalk. So the plan for those lights to go in is
Hopefully this fall.
hopefully this fall. And then at that point, if they provide enough adequate lighting for that parking,
Then
then
we-
we'll go from there.
There is one street light,
Down there.
I
right,
thought there was.
right where the boat parking.
Right,
area-
it is,
There is one, but it's definitely not a safe area to park at, I wouldn't think. And where do we stand for, where we stand right now as far as Phase 2? Or is a lot of that discussion going to happen at the
Well-
14th meeting, or?
I don't know, a lot of that's going to happen at the
Okay.
14th meeting, and it's going to be there. I think based on the discussion tonight with the input you received from NCDC, depending on what the council authorizes heretofore on those aspects, will affect the design. Those decisions have to be made. So we're at the preliminary stage. The preliminary stage of planning, final engineering is starting now.
So-
But it would be good to have key points like what was discussed
Right.
tonight.
So the definite drawings of what Phase 2 is going to look like have not been established? Because it's going to be based on what happens at the end, Is that what you're saying?
The definite concept is there.
Yeah, the
concept.
But the engineering to get to the concept is
Not there.
Then if we change the road height, obviously the engineering changes substantially.
So, but the concept designs, the latest, those were all agreed on a long time ago. That's the way it's going.
Yes,
And
there
the
was a-
pictures that have been floating around.
Well, they're flat, they're not the schematics like we've had before, the large renderings. They're the, small
That
spreadsheets.
long-
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for helping.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep.
I was curious too.
Anything else under old business? New business. I had written down the discussion on the Johnson case, but we're gonna try to arrange that.
That should be, and actually, it doesn't have to be non-public. Basically, as soon as the attorneys have something to report to us, and they'll get a hold of us to arrange a meeting.
Counselor Jarvis?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Someone had asked, and Rick's not here, but maybe you know this, Alice. Someone had asked me that lives on Durrell Drive that the pavement for that area was supposed to be done this year.
Last week of September.
Great.
Tell Chris it's going to be done shortly.
Okay.
I already called him. I made a personal phone call.
I don't think
to
it
him.
was Chris, but
It's
and-
on schedule.
Okay, the last week of September. And I just wanted to kind of throw it out there. When I first got on the council, Kathy in the office was explaining to me that my packet would be delivered by the police on Fridays. And I had said quickly that I thought that seemed like a wasted resource to have our packets delivered by the police. And I asked if I could just pick mine up. Because I thought that made sense. She said, sure, but it's still being delivered every Friday. I don't know. I just wanted to see where everybody else stood as far as getting their packets and whether or not we can agree as a town council that we could pick up our own packets and that the police could use their resources in a better way. I just wanted to know if we could have a little bit of discussion on that maybe, or talk about it. I don't know if we need to move it for a discussion. I mean, how many people get there?
I had the exact same experience. I actually tried to come and get it, and it was always gone. They're like, oh, the police came and got it, and it would be at my house when I got home.
What's wrong with that?
Whoa.
Oh, no, I just sort of feel like Jen, I'm sure the police have way more important stuff to do than drop stuff off at my house.
I have mine delivered to the house, and I personally like that because I don't always have the chance. I mean, it's an extra stop.
You can,
That's fine.
I make attempts to pick mine up. If it's here, I take it. If it isn't, then.
Yeah, it's delivered.
But I'd like us to, I mean, if we could discuss it and make a decision to not have them delivered, I mean, that would, I think if we could, I mean, make a motion or something to have them not delivered and use that resource for something else. And my next thing for new business would be, could we discuss talking to Chief Seer about making the parking tickets downtown more of a priority? Looking at the budget as how much they brought in for this year on parking tickets compared to what they brought in the years before. What we expected them to bring in is absolutely nothing. And I mean, personally, I'd much rather see that time spent delivering our agendas on giving some parking tickets in the downtown area.
Didn't they donate $35,000?
Personal preference.
No.
It's not I'm just saying, we have complaints of people complaining about, I mean, there's a 2-hour, it's a law that we have done there that we're not enforcing. So again, that's what I'm saying. I would like to suggest that we free up some of the policemen's time, that it's not really necessary for us to pay police officers to deliver our packets, that we should be able
That,
to.
again, is a personal preference of yours.
That's all, that's.
Okay.
Counselor Hart and then Counselor Wilford Hamel.
Al, do you have any more update on when the telephone poles are going to be taken out at Elm Street?
I think we've done-
the whole area, because it's just, I've driven through a bunch of towns and they're still in the ground. And there's a Verizon building on Exeter across from my office on Center Street, and the second pole just got put in, and PSNH got the lines attached to it, and the Verizon officers and workers are right across the street with their trucks every day getting their assignments, and it's still
There.
big pile of dirt, pole, Actually, I think they got the pole I don't know, but it's amazing. So how long it can take. And it would be a real bummer if we couldn't get the coat on top of it and have the poles taken out because we couldn't plow.
Yeah.
It'd be like hitting 2 poles at once.
We're hopeful that we'll have the removal of the poles by let's say, no later than mid-November.
Okay.
You know, and I'll tell
That's
you,
ridiculous.
we've been pushing hard on this. This
Can we
whole
just
process started
cut 'em
last
down?
November.
That's all.
Well,
What is this?
that would get them to
Problem?
respond in a hurry, because then they'd have to relocate the pole.
Who's the contact at PSNH? Because I think
PSNH
they
has
put
already
the pole on my property and they put the guide wire on my property.
Dennis Tuttle, and I'll call him because
Partially on the property.
he's used to hearing from me. Dennis Tuttle.
I didn't, the point where they put the stake in the ground, the pole is on that, but it's also on 6 inches past it. And then the guide wire was never marked, and then suddenly at the edge of my driveway.
Okay, pole and guide wire. I'll
So
have him get
if you just give me the number, I'll call them. I don't want you
I
calling them.
don't know
'cause
his extension, but it's 779-1802, Dennis Tuttle.
Okay.
679.
679, okay, 679, thank you. Do you know his extension? It's 5620, maybe?
I think so.
But
Okay.
you better check it, it might be wrong.
And I don't want to give PSNH a bad name because they did react to concerns that Nancy Jablonski had, for example. And I think Tito Bulio and his family helped address the concerns she had about where the pole is going to be moved. So it's just it'd be nice for there to be a little bit more communication when the pole location appears to have changed.
The scheduling is difficult in every community with utilities, and actually, they've done pretty good. I've really
It's not
hassled.
PSNH, it's Verizon. And
Yeah.
it's at the point where I think we need to send a formal letter to the PUC because it took them a year to react to the need for Main Street. And you apparently requested this change a year ago,
Yeah.
last November, and it's going to take them a year to comply? That's ridiculous.
And we had to get hot and bothered here from, the May, June, July period. I was calling them
Right, I remember.
every day.
What is their reason? Do they give you a reason?
Well, scheduling,
Lack of staff?
scheduling,
After a year, you really don't care what the reason
I
is?
know.
I think they get
I'm
lonely.
just curious to what is it that's taken a whole year?
Brian mentioned Exeter. I was at a meeting on utilities about a year and a half ago at NHMA and all of the communities. And there were pictures there where, here's a parking lot and it's been excavated down to a grade, and here's the poles in the middle of the parking lot, and they're still waiting for the utility, but the store is open, the parking lot's been paved, and the poles are there. It's not just Newmarket. It's just difficult scheduling and getting them.
Well, for Phase 2 downtown, we better put the work request in now.
It's going to be a little different. It's going to be much different than the underground utilities.
Dig the holes where you can put the poles in the ground and bury them for them.
Okay, I believe, Wilfred, you were next, and then Counselor Morrison? Did you?
Oh.
I thought you raised your hand.
Yeah, the packets. I know when I first came on, I heard the problem was, and prior to that, was that counselors were picking it up the night of the meeting. This way here, I know I read mine pretty quick after I get it. Maybe I'm luckier than most, but I do know that some were coming to the meeting, stopping in and picking up their packet. So
I think that was the reason why they offered that service, and the police are the ones that offered that service to us, was to be able to do that. Because when I get mine on Friday night, that's the first thing I do. I watch the news, and I sit back, and I open up the packet, and I glance through it, and sometime on Sunday, I'll go back and write my notes up.
Counselor Morrison?
I'd like to make a motion, if I'm not sure if this is actually a motion, but that we inform the chief that other than in cases where an individual counselor personally requests the service, the Newmarket Police are no longer required to drop off administrative packets.
Well, individual counsel shouldn't be requesting services of department heads.
Well, no, I mean, maybe we can work on the phrasing of it, but Dana, I'm an English major, but this is might as well be French. It's this stuff. all this, RSA kind of stuff.
We're
You've got-
therefore, however.
Yeah, yeah. I used to know what those words meant. But
Well, no, I've been through this in several towns, and most of the time, in the end, the council would feel, just exactly as Councilor Jarvis did, that the police department has more important things to do, and probably, particularly if the, sometimes it's not just an officer, it could be a captain, it could be a lieutenant, it could be a
Yeah.
sergeant. I mean, you're paying these people supervisory salaries, and they're delivering agendas, and it has surfaced as an issue in four of the towns that I've served, and when it did,
Mhm.
it was discontinued. It wasn't, it was either discontinued or reinforced.
Yeah. Well, I mean, would it be okay to inform the town administrator that,
ridiculous to spend.
other than in cases where a counselor, personally wants to have it dropped off? I don't know, it just does seem like a bit of a waste of time. I mean, it must take a good
Are
hour.
you making a motion?
I think so.
Because we're getting,
I think, I would
Well,
just like to
He-
suggest either
Al,
you do
he's
it or
got
you
to
don't.
make the motion.
Yeah.
is there a
We're going
second?
to discuss this in a workshop. Why are we going to a motion?
Because I'm bored.
Brian, if you could just make the, I
made the motion.
suggesting, you're making the motion the way it stands.
I guess, yeah,
Because
to
I'm-
inform, I'd like to make a motion to, other than in cases where an individual counselor personally requests the service, the Newmarket Police are no longer required to drop off administrative packets, and the counselors can direct those requests towards the town administrator.
Can I offer a friendly amendment?
Yeah.
That we just say that we're making a motion to no longer authorize the delivery of our packets through the Newmarket Police.
That's gonna get mad, people are gonna get mad.
That's all right, I'm willing to
You're,
take it.
you
That's
can't
do-
make everyone happy in this business.
I don't know, Jerry Lewis did okay.
Yeah, he gave half of his money away to hurricane victims.
He did, and he had a lot of money.
So is
Okay,
that a
is there a
yes on the
second?
friendly amendment?
Yes,
Thank you.
sure.
Is there a second?
So wait a minute, what's the motion?
To not deliver packets any longer.
And that was seconded by Ms.
I'll second it.
Jarvis.
Discussion? Counselor Gary Ham. Sorry, you're so quiet. Your light doesn't line up.
We had discussed this quite a while ago, and I think even Larry was on the council at the time. And the way we left it is that if you didn't want the police to deliver it, and you just made that request, and that seemed to go over real well. And
That's the way it's always been.
yeah, and that's the way it is now. So I would say, just leave
Leave
it
it
as
alone.
is. If
But
you don't want it delivered, then you don't have to have it delivered.
Jen and I just said, like, when I first got on, because I lived even closer to the town hall than I do now, the police still dropped it off, and, I don't mind, I don't really have anything to hide except some dirty dishes, but, and Jen had the same thing, and,
I don't have dirty dishes.
You don't have dirty dishes? Your restaurant does. Your restaurant. Oh, my God, I'm so that's totally not true. They're in the kitchen, by the sink, ready to be cleaned. But, God, I can't believe that this is on TV. Yeah, so that's I just don't think it's necessary. And it's on the table.
Gloria?
Yep. Counselor Wilfred Hamel.
Okay. If you live where it's 3 miles down and 3 miles back at
Mhm.
$3 a gallon,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you'd reconsider.
Well, I mean, that's kind of why I thought,
What's wrong with, if you don't want it, don't do it, but if you
Right,
want
that's
it,
what I don't understand.
take it. I mean, what's wrong? You're denying somebody from having it delivered. If the cops get too much to do, let them say so.
Jen, what did I tell you?
Just, can I quick?
Counselor Hart.
I'm getting
Just,
bored
just,
now.
just
Counselor
quickly,
Hart.
oh, sorry. Forgot my name.
The other solution is you stick a $1.50 stamp on it and you get it Saturday morning. I have to agree with Jen. I don't really think it's something that they should be doing. And I think some of us drive by this town council chambers every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not there every day. It's
Yes.
there Friday
And it's a
afternoon.
matter of preference, and it's the way it should be.
I don't think we should be benefiting from the police doing it. And it's nothing about the police department. If it was the public works department doing it, it would be the same thing.
Counselor Jarvis.
Just,
Town's not that big.
just quickly, I didn't want it, my anticipation was not to spend this much time on it. I realize that it's a preference, that people can pick their packet up or not, but the reason I said is because I don't think taxpayers should have to pay to get our mail delivered. I think we should be able to pick up our own mail. That's the point. That's all I was going to say.
There's a motion on the table. I'm going to close discussion. Can you call the roll?
Okay, we're voting on the amendment, or has it been
The
incorporated?
amended motion was to,
No more deliveries.
Okay. Counselor Hart,
Yes.
Counselor Morrison,
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel,
Nay.
Counselor Glennon,
Nay.
Counselor Jarvis,
Aye.
Counselor Jerry Hamel,
Nay.
Counselor Caprioli. Aye, so
What'd you
that's
say?
1,
Aye.
2, 3, 4. It carries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We're gonna get phone calls about this one.
Boy, this is ridiculous to spend this much time on this.
Okay, so let's move on.
Dog one.
Any other new business? Any other new business?
I know.
Seeing none?
That's gonna get picked.
Is there,
that's gonna
do we have, oh, yes, we did. Okay, I'd like to hear a motion to enter into non-public RSA 91A:32D real estate.
So moved.
Thank you, Counselor Morrison. Is there a second?
Second.
Counselor Hart seconds.